All right, welcome to the Van Gogh Wealth Show, wealth creation for attorneys, advisors, and entrepreneurs. I'm your host, as always, Sterling Van Gogh, and today we're going to cover some really interesting stuff, and we're going to start with some indifferent truths. You may or may not have noticed these things as you go through life and business, and I'm going to give you some indifferent truths. The reason that they're indifferent is that they simply are. All right, and they're true. If you go and inspect every observation here, you'll see, generally speaking, they're true, and they're indifferent as to how you feel about that. So, indifferent truth number one is everybody is skeptical all the time. You know this to be true. When you go out, you see advertising, your guard's up, whether consciously or subconsciously, you detect a certain level of skepticism. When you talk with people, you detect a certain level of skepticism from them, especially if they're strangers on the phone and you're doing business, right? So you got to get to know, like, and trust people. And until that happens, skepticism is high. I remember a long time ago, 6 or 7 years now, I saw an ad for this like course, and I definitely didn't respond to ads at the time. I never had before, but this particular gentleman went to such great lengths and just checked all the boxes, and not sort of checked them, but just home run checked all the boxes to prove, demonstrate, illustrate, and basically take my skepticism and just boil it into water and then into vapor and let it evaporate into thin air. It just completely disappeared. It takes a lot of work to do that, but I remember at that time, my level of skepticism I thought was impenetrable. Turns out I was wrong. And that's actually good news. Most people, we're going to get to the good news part. Indifferent truth number two, until you fix this, all right, your prospects think that you look just like everybody else. And why shouldn't they? If they have no idea who you are and they only have one impression of you and they don't know anything else about you, yeah, you look just like everybody else until you demonstrate that you're different or show them or tell them or inform them somehow that you're different from anyone else they could be talking to. By the way, you have to have a reason that you're different. That's beyond the scope of this conversation. That's more of a strategic conversation. There are definitely ways to do that. Indifferent truth number three, you really have a tiny window in time to win, all right? Especially if you're advertising cold or even if it's a referral, whatever the first point of entry is, you really only have a pretty narrow window of time, sometimes a matter of seconds. Sometimes I think I read somewhere that in the first like zero point 0.8 seconds, somebody, their subconscious categorizes you automatically. And I think it was like 6 other seconds until they developed a conscious first impression. So you really have a very tiny window in time to win. That can be good and that can be bad. We're going to get to the good news soon. Indifferent truth number four, your first impression will probably be your only impression. And that's because they say you never get a second first impression, some phrase like that. Your first impression lasts pretty much forever. I particularly remember this video I saw of another mentor from afar who actually had a chance to meet in person. And he offered me a job. I can't believe I turned it down, even though it was actually the best thing. Um, yeah, I never thought that would happen. Anyway, 6, 7 years ago, I see this mentor from afar as he's building his company, and this video that he had, not unlike this video here. And I still remember that video. That was the very first time I'd ever seen that person on camera, ever, for that matter. He was exactly who he was on camera and off camera, maybe slightly heightened, but that's the impression I still have of him. And that's probably never going away unless he were to have a radical character change, which almost nobody ever does. So your first impression, whatever that happens to be, is probably going to be your entire impression for your prospects. All right, and different truth number five, what you say doesn't matter. It just doesn't. Well, there's one exception. And it's really interesting because until you say this one particular thing, anything else that you say just bounces off your prospects like bullets off of Superman, right? Superman. They just don't make it through, and they certainly don't stick. They bounce right off. And the reason is there's something missing in what you're saying. And that's part of the one exception that we'll talk about. So the different truth number five is what you say does not matter. What you say does not matter yet. All right. And different truth number six, there are no sales tricks or magical closes. I've been in sales. If you listen to my mother, I've been in sales since I was a child. She swears to me that as a kid, I walked into my neighbor's front yard, picked up a rock, and sold it to him at their front door. I don't remember that. It does kind of sound like something I do, but I don't remember it. She swears it's true. You can imagine, you see a kid pick up a rock from your front yard, he knocks on your door, cute as a button. You're going to tell him no for trying to sell him your rock or sell you your rock? Yeah, so anyway, as far as actual professional experience, yeah, 2013 to 2026, so about 13 years. off and on. The last 7 years full-time, 100% a salesperson. And I can tell you, having read all these books that you see, there are no magical words or secret closes. There's no just like, oh, press this button and the deal is closed. It doesn't exist, all right? Good news number one. As far as the indifferent truths go for each of those, there's actually a piece of good news. And the first piece of good news is people actually want to trust you. We all want to trust somebody. It's kind of the foundation of our social, I think the phrase, the fancy phrase is socioeconomic system. Basically, we want to trust people to solve problems. If we can't trust people to solve problems, we have to solve all the problems on our own, and we're not capable of doing that. It's really kind of the foundation of this incredible economy that we live in. If you can't trust people to solve something, then we really have no commerce in the first place. So people, not only do they want to trust you, they kind of expect to be able to trust you eventually, but they definitely want to. We all want to, right? We gotta be able to trust people, and we want to be able to trust people. Good news number two, standing out from the crowd is actually shockingly easy. Once you get this right, you do this one particular thing I'm about to share with you, and the standing out from the crowd thing it just happens by default. You don't even really have to do anything else. Good news number three, that window in time to win your prospects over can be expanded. All right, so you can expand that window. In fact, if you do a great job in the first window of time, you basically bought yourself a second window of time, in which case you get to buy yourself a third window of time, so on and so forth, until eventually you've got the business, right? And then you get to buy more time to do more business like referrals and so on and so forth. All right. Good news number four, making the best first impression will last for as long as they remember you. Just like the story I told you, mentor of mine from afar, billionaire as far as I know, definitely in the multiple hundreds of millions in net worth. I remember that first video, and I remember meeting him backstage where he offered me a job. Same guy, impression lined up perfectly. The whole point is that was, 8 years ago now that I saw that video. And that impression lasted. So if you make a good first impression for as long as you're around, that's going to last. And good news number five, there is one thing you can say that works better, easier, and faster than anything else every time. It's a really, really good piece of good news, all right? This is some of the best news you're going to hear all day, probably. Well, I hope not. I hope you hear something even better than that. That'd be great. I'd love that for you. Good news number five, there's one thing you can say that works better, easier, and faster than anything else every time. That's some really good news. Like I said, I hope you get even better news today. Good news number six, there is a silver bullet. You're discovering that right now, in fact. But it's not a sales trick, though it may feel magical. All right, so it's not a trick. It's not like this magical set of words, though it might feel magical, actually. And it's the closest thing to a silver bullet that you're going to get. And what is that thing? All right, well, it's actually the solution to problem number one. Everyone is skeptical all the time. And the solution is this magical word called demonstration. All right, so I just told you there's no magical words. If there were one, demonstration might be on the list. The word itself isn't magical, but the effect can be. So the power of demonstration essentially comes down to a really, really basic concept. I can tell you something, and if I say it, you might believe it. Someone else can tell you something about me, perhaps, or my product or service, and you might believe it. Now, a lot of people say, if I say it, like, it could be untrue, but if they say it, it's true. That's sort of beyond what I'm talking about here. But basically, if I tell you something, you may or may not believe it. If someone else says the same thing about me or my product or service, you may or not believe it. And actually, even if you say something about my product or service, you may or may not believe it. But there's one thing you can do that will erase all doubt whatsoever and make it completely believable. And that's where the trust comes in. And that thing is demonstration. So don't say it. Don't have someone else say it. Don't have your prospects say it. Prove it. Demonstrate. All right? Prove it. I think, Frank Kern is the guy that most famously said, demonstrate that you can help people by actually helping them, right? So if you're in this business of helping somebody in exchange for value, that's the deal you're making, then you need to demonstrate that you can help them for free before you ask to help them for money. Demonstrate you can make someone's life better by actually making someone's life better. It's a pretty good philosophy. All right, solution number 2, until you fix it, your prospect thinks you look just like everybody else. Well, I have a solution for that. It's a demonstration, right? So if your prospects think you look just like everybody else, it is simply because they haven't experienced or seen your demonstration of what makes you different. Again, you don't want to tell them what's different. You don't want to let other people tell them what's different. You don't even want them to come to their own conclusions as to what's different. You need to demonstrate the difference between you and anyone else. Demonstrate, prove that you're different by actually being different. How about that one? Yeah, a little variation there for you, Frankie. All right, solution number 3. You have a tiny window in time to win. The solution is demonstration. All right, with that constrained time, that tiny little window to win, probably the best thing you could ever do is make a demonstration, right? Kind of back to my mentor from afar. He had a sales video, that was the first thing I saw of him, explaining how he built marketing campaigns. But he didn't sit there and just talk. He actually had these little building blocks like Legos, and he'd stack them and make them modular and color code them. And it was an actual demonstration of an intellectual process. Well, that's pretty slick. So demonstration, all right? If you have that tiny window in time, the best thing you can do is make a demonstration of some sort, all right? And the more visual, the better, by the way. Solution number 4, your first impression will likely be your only impression. Guess what? If your first impression is a demonstration that's really effective, you're gonna have a really great, long-lasting impression of a demonstration. And the demonstration is where all the leverage is. All right, solution number 5, what you say doesn't matter. There is one exception. I'm gonna let you guess what that exception is. Yeah, it's actually a demonstration, all right? There's one thing you can say, and that's the demonstration, that works better, easier, and faster than anything else every single time. There's only one thing you can say, and that's a demonstration. Now, I'm actually gonna demonstrate for you how to do a verbal demonstration later on in this video. You'll see video/audio, wherever it is you're watching this. So there is one thing you can say, a demonstration, that works better, easier, and faster than anything else every single time. All right, solution number 6. There are no sales tricks or magical closes, but there is a silver bullet. And that silver bullet, all right, it's actually a demonstration. If you're seeing a pattern here, good, because it's a very obvious pattern. Now, why is a demonstration a silver bullet? Why is that so much better than all these magical closes or sales tricks? The reason is people want to buy a solution to a problem. If they see and you prove by demonstration that your solution is the superior solution to their problem, then there are no amount of words, generally speaking, that can change their mind about anyone else's product or service or yours too. Now, if they see based on the facts, and I suppose other demonstrations, that someone else has an inferior solution to their problem, then there are no amount of words, magical words, sales tricks, or closes that's going to make that person want to buy an inferior solution, right? People want the superior solution at a particular price point. That's a conversation for another day, but the point is, no sales tricks, no magical closes. At the end of the day, the best product wins, period. Just ask Mark Zuckerberg about that, or Amazon, or anybody that's come out with an unbeatable product, all right? Product or website or service, whatever. At the end of the day, the best product wins. Now, I have a client, an advisor, and we do annuity appointment generation for him. And we went national and just, oh my gosh, floods of appointments. However, what we found with the national campaigns is that typically they're more prone to rate shopping. The reason is, if they're in California and they're talking to a guy in Florida, they have no geographical connection, no personal risk in the relationship. And so they perceive that as a slightly more commoditized transaction. It's one of the reasons I actually suggest going local for high net wealth investor campaigns. But the point there is that he, in context of all these rate shopping annuity investors, doesn't have the best rate product. He said, what should I do? I said, you should either get the best rate product or you should switch to local where there aren't as many rate shoppers, because you cannot fight market forces. The market wants what it wants, no matter what you have or don't have. It's indifferent to what you have or don't have. Either you do have the solution or you don't, and once the market finds that out, they just move on. So if you can't get the best product to fit this market's needs, get to a different market or get the best product. So the best product wins, and there's no amount of sales tricks or magical closes that'll change that. All right, so what do you demonstrate? And I touched on this earlier, that you can actually make someone's life better. So again, you can say you can do that. You can have other people say you can do that. I'll get to some real life demonstrations on my part about this exactly right now. That's all you're really trying to do. And the way that you make someone's life better is that you save them from pain or you point them towards pleasure. End of story. Hey, here's a giant booby trap. It's going to cut your legs off. You're not going to want to do that. Here, let me show you where that is so you can just not step in that booby trap. Hey, by the way, here's this thing I've done in the past. It worked really well, made me millions of dollars. I can't say it will work for you, but if I just point you in that direction, you got a pretty good shot. The rest is up to you, right? So you want to avoid the booby traps, point to the oasis. All right. The other things you want to demonstrate is that you're trustable, you're different, and you're worth their time. That last one might hit you kind of funny, worth their time. But you actually have to be worth their time or you won't get any of their time. And if you can't get any of their time, you can't get a deal. I mean, time is the currency of transactions, right? If they won't spend time with you, they're not going to buy from you. So you got to demonstrate that their time with you is well spent, that you are worth their time. You do that by proving it, by the way. Right, so by the time that happens, when it's time for your prospects to make a decision, when they have decided to decide, they're basically now primed to choose you. Why? Think about it. If I'm talking to 10 people, 9 people say I'm the greatest person in the world, the others are suckers, and one person says, well, you told me you're looking for X, here's a solution to X. And he just shows me, and he says, ask all the other 9 guys for it, and the other 9 guys can't demonstrate anything. Well, I mean, obviously I'm going to pick the guy that showed me he can solve it, right? That proved it. That's all you're really trying to do. When it's time for your prospects to decide, they're naturally going to pick the person who has best demonstrated they can already solve their solution or solve their problem by having already solved some problems for them, right? So demonstrate you can help somebody by actually helping somebody. Demonstrate you can make someone's life better by actually making their lives better. I'm going to give you some hard examples on this, some concrete examples. And I call this the domino demonstration. The reason I call it the domino demonstration, a lot of people in business, myself included for a long time, sometimes still go running around in the entire business and they'll knock down a line of dominoes halfway here, halfway there, halfway there. Next thing you know, they got all this work knocking down the rest of the dominoes. But when you get the right domino, the top domino, and you make that demonstration happen, you knock that one domino down, and then everything after that gets better and falls into place. As soon as you make the domino demonstration, there's more trust, there's more likability, there's more authority, your show-up rate increases, your close rate increases, they're less price sensitive, the whole thing gets better. They're more likely to refer, they're likely to be better and easier clients. The whole thing gets better with this one change, this one demonstration, the domino demonstration. All right, so it's the one thing you can do to make everything work better from then on. It's the one domino you can tip over so that all the others fall in place as a result. If you got a sales team and they're really struggling, and I mean they're pounding the phones like old school boiler room type stuff, it's just not the right way to do it. If you open with the domino demonstration, those guys, half their work is going to go out the window. All right, so I learned this from Gary Keller. He's got one of these books on the shelves. He runs Keller Williams, or ran it or founded, I'm not sure, founded it. His question, the whole book is a great book, strongly recommend it. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? It's a really great question. If you can ask yourself that question every day, you're going to have a much easier life. When I started out as a freelancer, I asked myself this question, and the answer was to write sales letters every day. So I would prospect for sales letters, and that worked incredibly well. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? The answer, by the way, in a sales conversation is the domino demonstration. All right, domino for annuity investors. Now we have some concrete examples. I'm going to give you demonstrations of a verbal demonstration, all right? So the domino for annuity investors. If you show them stock market math, you're going to demonstrate that you have helped them avoid a booby trap. You've made their life better by actually making their life better. See, here's the interesting thing. In the stock market, people think if you're down 10%, you need 10% to break even. If you're down 20%, you need 20% to break even. 30, 40, 50, so on and so forth, 30, 40, 50 to break even. It's just not true. If you pull out your calculator and do the math, if you go at 100 and you're down 10%, you're at 90. Well, to get from 90 to 100, you need 11% to break even. If you're down 20%, you need 25% to break even. If you're down 30%, you need 43% to break even. And if you're down 50%, you have to double your money to break even. Now, last I checked, rule of 72, blah, blah, blah. Average stock market returns a while back were like 7%. So compounding. And I think more recently it's like 13 or 11%. They've been really, really up. But the point is, Mr. Annuity Investor, you're in the stock markets and you're being told that you can retire in the stock markets. But the reality is, if you're drawing income from this and paying tax on that income, by the way, and there's a stock market correction, the odds of you recovering and lasting through retirement, if we have a 40% correction, are nearly zero. Nearly zero. Close enough that it should be very scary, because it is. All right, well, now you know. By the way, the conversation you have here is, and there's different ways to go about this. You insure your health, you insure your life, you insure your home, you insure your car, you insure everything important in your life, you insure your family's health. So why don't you insure your income? And that's what an annuity is. It's income insurance against these kinds of risks. All right. Now, Domino for securities investors, stock market math, and then you show them essentially the same math and help them understand that with an annuity or a dividend stalwart, if you're not an annuity guy, you can take that risk off the table for the same reasons I just described. So with a dividend stalwart, by that I mean a company who's never lowered their dividends for the last 30 years. You get one at 5%, great. You basically got the equivalent of some annuities. There's no life insurance component, but at least you can take the risk off the table, right? All right, next one. How to collateralize your mortgage and invest the home value in the market so that your mortgage pays you. This is a Domino demonstration for high net wealth investors. This is a really cool strategy. If you share this with an investor who happened to be a good fit for it, they would like you. So the way it works, let's say you got $1 million cash and it's just a percent of your portfolio. It's tax, or it's post-tax income. So it's non-qualified money. And you take that and you buy a home. So you take the home, it's $1 million. You take your money out of the stock market for $1 million. You buy the home, boom, no mortgage, but you're also not in the stock market. What you can do instead, take that $1 million cash, buy stock, buy $1 million worth of non-qualified stock, take that non-qualified stock and collateralize it into a loan, and then buy your mortgage, typically at prime, whatever prime happens to be, 1.5 maybe. So what's happened now is, instead of having a mortgage on which you'd be paying like 4%, what you've got is, it's just easy math for the example, $1 million in stock paying you 10% a year, easy math, maybe it's that, maybe it's not, and then a mortgage at prime at 1.5% a year. So you're actually earning the difference between 10 and 1.5, which is 8.5%. So not only do you not have a mortgage that's costing you 4% a year, your home is getting you an 8.5% stock market return every year, because you have the home and the stocks. Really great strategy. If I had $1 million, I'd be doing that. I had $1 million, but I spent it all. Not really, that's just a throwback to the song. All right, Domino, or maybe it isn't. Maybe I really did and did. Anyway, Domino for bankruptcy. Health insurance. Here's the thing, if you're talking to a bankruptcy prospect and they're about to file Chapter 7 or 13, here's the conversation you have with them. You say, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, before you file, there is one thing you absolutely must do, and you absolutely must never, ever, ever file bankruptcy without getting this one thing in place. No matter what you do not file without this one thing. For the sake of you and your family, to avoid nearly certain financial destitution, you need this first. Find out what it is on page 3. All right, so you take that, and here's what the answer is. It's health insurance, and here's why. Again, this is the avoiding of a booby trap. Mr. Prospect, you're going to file on January 1st. Your debts are discharged. All right, January 2nd, you're in a car accident, you and your entire family, God forbid, and your medical bills come back at $950,000 because surgery and bones and all this stuff. All right, well, if you just file bankruptcy, that $950,000, if you don't have health insurance, is 100% due. There's no way to get rid of it for the next 8 years. You got to pay it. You got no options. So if you don't want that to happen, after you file bankruptcy, make sure that you got yourself some health insurance before that happens. It's going to save you from an immense amount of financial trouble. I mean, you just can hardly even imagine the emotional savings there. All right, how about a Domino for ADHD consulting? All right, so I would say, basically, in ADHD, it's all about pain removal. I know that from experience because, I happen to have ADHD or be ADHD or whatever people say. Diagnosed late in life, was maladapted at first, but have done just fine lately. So first thing to understand is there's certain jobs you need to avoid. The reason is, if you're ADHD, you struggle with time perception and space perception and working memory. In fact, most people that are ADHD don't actually have it's not that they can't focus, it's that they can't remember what they were supposed to focus on. That's not the same thing. So there's a short working memory. It's a telltale sign. I've been saying for almost a decade, I think I have a memory disorder because, all sorts of things would come up and I just couldn't remember, just straight up couldn't. Important stuff too, or things that other people thought would be important. Apparently not important to my ADHD mind. So memory, time perception, and space perception. So you're literally struggling through time and space with a bad memory. Well, that's the worst job you can think of in that instance. I would say waiting tables. And it was the worst job I've ever had because it was the worst I've ever performed at anything because I'm literally not made to wait tables. Beyond my personality and all these other things, I didn't do well with time. I couldn't remember the orders and I couldn't navigate the space. All right. So I was just one of the worst servers ever. I did that for 5 years. If someone had told me that I was ADHD and that this is the exact job to avoid, I would have gone and done something I'm much more suited for, like writing or speaking. All right. And then how to dissolve overwhelm. This is interesting as a domino demonstration for ADHD entrepreneurs. So what's happening in the mind of an ADHD person, speaking from experience, is your subconscious is constantly raising things up and putting it at the front of your mind. And when it does that, that's your subconscious telling you that it's something important. All right, now that actually happens for everybody, ADHD or not. However, if you're ADHD, because of that short working memory, that thing falls off the list in your brain, and then it comes back up, and then it falls back off. And so the next thing you know, you're getting multiple reminders from your brain about the same thing, all right? And now sometimes those reminders stick in your head, and maybe you have 10 things to do, and you're circling around all 10 things, but your brain keeps reminding you 4 or 5 different times of the same tasks. So now you're circling around 40 or 50 different things to do in your mind, and it just gets overwhelming. Who wouldn't be overwhelmed by 50 things to do at once, trying to remember all that? So that's how the ADHD mind works, because you're constantly just chasing the open tabs in your mind, which are really just repeat tabs of the original thing. And again, that's your subconscious telling you something's important. I don't know why this is the solution, but it's always worked for me. And anyone that's tried it, all you got to do is write it down. See, I got this right here. I carry this with me every single day. This is my notebook. Just write it down. Write down your list. I don't know why that works, but it works like a charm. All right. Domino for estate planning. All right. This is in the category of an oasis. There actually is a special trust for business owners that, when deployed, can save or eliminate 80 to 90% of your business taxes. I'm actually doing a project with a client on that here soon. It's a private trust, and it's actually a dual trust structure. There's a lot to it, but essentially, Mr. Business Owner, would you like to save 80 to 90% of your business taxes? Yes or no? Yes? Great. Let me show you how it works. So that's pointing to the oasis. Domino for ultra high net wealth investors. So one of those is spreading cash over $250,000 for cash insurance. For the record, I think this went up to $350, like fairly recently. But the point is, say you got $20 million cash. Let's make it $10 million for easy math. Well, now $9,750,000 of your dollars, if that bank goes under, those dollars are not insured. That's the reason the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation exists, so that if a bank goes under, and that doesn't happen a lot, but it absolutely does happen, that's why the corporation exists, then your cash is insured, just like your retirement should be, right? The issue is you don't want to have to open 20 different bank accounts. I guess it'd be 40 different bank accounts at 10 million. Could you imagine having 40 different bank accounts? So there's a program at many large brokerages or wirehouses or financial institutions. You can have one account, $10 million cash in there, and they actually do spread it out over 40 different checking accounts, banking accounts, but you only have one portal to log in. It's pretty sweet. If you got 10 mil cash laying around and you want to have it all insured so that if your bank goes under, you're not out $9.75 million, that's a pretty good program. There's a domino for the high net wealth investors. How about for business lending? All right, so there actually is a way to sell your business for 13.63% higher price with 0 extra fees. So I'm actually in the middle of a test campaign with this right now, and this is the winning headline to business owners who want to retire by selling. And the way that you do this is both avoiding the booby trap and pointing to the oasis. So it's both. It's by avoiding the extra fees, but also selling for higher. The way that you do this, turns out the best person to sell your business to in most cases is actually a long-term employee. Why? They know the business, you know them, they're trustworthy, they keep showing up to work on time, you've got a good standing relationship, negotiations will be easier because you already know each other, and again, they know the business really, really well. What that allows you to do, by the way, is skip having a broker, because the broker's not going to bring you a buyer. You came to the deal with a buyer, right? So, and I could be wrong here, but the last I checked, the most work a broker does or their biggest justification for their work is by finding a buyer at highest price and helping close the deal. Well, last I checked, and again, I could be wrong, but last I checked, you can raise the price as much as you want and you can negotiate the deal and you can save yourself 13.63%, right? So all you got to do that is sell your business to an employee. They're the most likely to take care of it. They've worked there a long time. It's a really, really good deal for both of you. And you can sell at a higher price because you cut the brokerage commission out and no extra fees. All right, how about the domino for lead generation? For lead generation, there's really just one word, 2 words. I guess I can't count words today. There's 2 words for lead generation. It's called the lead magnet model. 3 words. I really cannot count today. 3 words, lead magnet model. All right, look, if you're generating leads, if you're not using the lead magnet model, you're just burning money. Part of the reason that the lead magnet model works is because built into it, when done well, is the domino demonstration. In fact, the lead magnet that we use for bankruptcy acquisition includes the domino that I just shared with you. When we do a lead magnet for the SBA, all right, and the business lending, it's going to include the sell for 13.63% more headline that I just shared with you. The annuity appointment generation lead magnet includes that domino, all right, about the stock market math. So if you're looking for a domino for lead generation, it is in fact the lead magnet model. The lead magnet. 4 words now, all right. And critical, mission critical to that lead magnet model's effectiveness is the inclusion of the domino. You got to include the domino if you want the lead magnet to work. All right, what about lead liquidation? So lead magnet model, that's the starting place. And frankly, most people don't even know it exists. I consider it the starting place because for whatever reason, its implementation is so rare, its proper implementation is so rare, it feels like this brand new world once you get something like that working for you. However, there is another frontier, a newer, further frontier called lead liquidation. And this is the real oasis in the desert because there's a way to generate leads such that if you sell them information and it costs you $50 to sell information to that person, and the average sale is $50, then 50 minus 50 equals 0, but you have the lead still. So you get free leads, and then with those free leads, you sell whatever comes next. So actually, I used this in my advertising agency for a little while. I sold a book, How to Get Automatic Annuities. I forget what exactly we spent on it. I was spending 10 grand a month in some cases. I think we were spending up to 120 grand a year, but I don't have the exact numbers. And spend 120 grand a year, get 120 grand in sales back. Again, I don't think it was actually that. I think it was less than that. And then I got like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 leads. And from those leads, I would upsell the advertising services. We're actually doing the same thing in the bankruptcy space. So the idea is you sell information, really good information, really valuable information, and you sell it and you liquidate the cost of lead generation. So now what happens is you don't actually have a market constraint. In fact, you only now have a cash flow constraint. We're running into that now. One of the lead liquidation models we deployed, we'd need to be spending $80,000 a month to get the volume we'd like to see to keep a sales team on board. Well, yeah, things are all right, but I'm not quite, just not yet ready to spend 80 grand a month, $1 million a year in ads. Yeah, hopefully that's soon. I'd love to be there soon. But there's a cash flow constraint because even though it's free, easy math, spend $1 grand in ads, get $1 grand in sales, lead is free, right? But it's still $1,000 a lead. So your constraint is the total amount of cash you can move through the system. So it's got a very slow ramp up time, which is why I don't recommend starting there, usually. And now what about the domino for business coaching? Believe it or not, the domino itself, what I've just demonstrated to you, if you're a business coach, is the most valuable thing I could have demonstrated to you if you'd like for me to be your business coach. It's the domino itself. As soon as you can go out and start using the domino, a verbal demonstration like this is certainly better than none. If I had a way to visualize all these different ones, I certainly would, if I could. If you can, you should. The domino itself is the most high leverage, greatest impact, shortest time, largest return on effort output you can ever get in your messaging to a cold prospect, the domino. All right, look, if you found this helpful, go ahead and say so in the comments wherever you're watching or listening to this, and check out more episodes like this. My name is Sterling Van Gogh. Thank you for listening to the Van Gogh Wealth Show, and we will, we'll see you next time. Have a great day, guys. Bye.